Hi everyone, welcome to the video. Welcome to the channel. Today I'm tuning the 2020 Lexus, the number 14 RCF GT3 in the Forza GT series. So this car is homologated, so starting off with the statistics, speed is 6, 6.3 braking, 6.4 handling and 6.5 acceleration. If you've seen the previous video, you know this car is a rocket ship. Super quick down the straight, not so good in the corners or on the brakes, but absolutely laces everything on the straight. So let's get into the performance aspect of this build. So the fuel and air, the restrictor plate is on the increased airflow. Platform and handling, we have nothing on brakes or weight reduction, but we do have an extra light ballast in the vehicle. Tyre compounds, the tyre compound itself is stock. The front tyre width is max at 325. And the rear is also at 325 as well. And wheels are stock. Don't think you can do anything to these, I'm not sure, but the wheels are stock. So now moving on to the fine tuning side of things. So regardless of whether you are on imperial or metric units, they will both be shown where necessary. So starting with tyre pressures, the tyre pressure on the front is 27.0 and the rear is 27.0. The gearing I've maxed out at 6.10 on the final drive, so the max speed is 203 mph, and these are the individual ratios for each gear. 9 times out of 10 you'll just keep it in 5th, but sometimes you may have to dip into the 6th gear. The alignment I've gone for negative 1.2 on the front with a negative 0.9 on the rear. Toe, I've got 0 front toe and 0 rear toe with a 7.0 caster angle. Anti-roll bars, I've gone for 39.00 on the front and 1.0 on the rear. The reason for this is because the front, it just allows it to stay a bit more level going through corners, as well as the increased responsiveness. But the rear, this just means that the back end, each tyre works pretty much individually, and this is going to give you the most amount of traction coming out of corners. These springs, I've gone for 543.3 pounds on the front, with the rear at 649.9 pounds on the rear. Just try and get as close as you can to those numbers. With the ride height slammed at 4.3 and 4.3. On tracks like the VR, when you go down the dip before that little chicane, it might be worth knocking this up to maybe about 4.8, maybe 4.9. It might just help with that bottoming out, but it doesn't really make too much of an impact on the car, especially if you know that it's coming. Damping, I've gone for 4.1 bump stiffness on the front with a 4.2 bump stiffness on the rear. The rebound stiffness is at 10.3 and the rear rebound, is at 9.8. The roll center height offset, this is personal preference. I think this is a solid balance, to be fair. 1.6 inches on the front and 0.8 on the rear. This really worked nicely for me. I had perfect turning and perfect corner exit, and there was no real wobbles from the car mid-corner, so this worked really, really well. The anti-geometry, the anti-dive on the front is at 5.1% and the anti-squat is at 5.3%. I try to avoid going too high on these because it allows the car to be a bit too inconsistent. So 5.1% front and minus 5.3 on the rear. Aerodynamics, the usual, maxed out front and lowered rear. So 317 pounds on the front and 240 pounds on the rear. Braking balance, that's on 50% and the braking pressure is at 200%. I increased it on this one. I don't really know as to why I did, but I did. I increased it and it worked really well. So feel free to use these if you wish, but if not, change them to your liking. I've gone for the balance at 50% with a braking force of 200%. Acceleration, it's actually really low, I know, at 30%, but this probably could be increased, but I settled at 30 just because I got the build pretty much where I want it to be. Still oversteers coming out of corners, but it's just a lot more manageable. And the deceleration is at 10%, and that just aids with that extra rotation that we don't want mid-corner, which causes exit oversteer. So guys, that is the build. Thank you for hitting the likes on the previous video. Do appreciate it. You absolutely smashed it, and it's still getting likes, so nice one for that. And going forward, I've been dipping into the touring cars, so I've been tuning a few of them. If you want to see some of them as well, some of them tunes and builds and races, please do let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, take care of yourselves and stay tuned for more.